G'day, welcome to Thank You White Knights. This is another article from globalresearch.ca, August 16, 2008. Title is Putin's Winning Hand. Once the Atlantic Alliance is shattered, America's lifeline to the world is kaput, by Mike Whitney. There are no military installations in the city of Skin Valley, whatever. In fact, there are no military targets at all. It is an industrial centre consisting of lumber mills, manufacturing plants and residential areas. It is also the home to 30,000 South Ossetians. When Georgian President Mikhail Saakashvili ordered the city to be bombed by warplanes and shelled by heavy artillery last Thursday, he knew that he would be killing hundreds of civilians in their homes and neighbourhoods, but he ordered the bombing anyway. There was no battle of how do you say that friggin' word? I might just say Skin Valley. That's another fiction. A battle implies that there is an opposing force that is resisting or fighting back. That's not the case here. The Georgian army entered the city unopposed. After all, how can unarmed civilians stop armed units? Most of the townspeople had already fled across the border into Russia or hid their basements while the tanks and armoured vehicles rumbled by, firing at anything that moved. What took place in South Ossetia last Thursday was not an invasion or a siege. It was a massacre. The people had no way to defend themselves against a fully equipped modern army. It was a war crime. In less than 24 hours, the Russian army was deployed to the war zone, where it chased the Georgian army away without a fight. Journalist Michael Binion put it like this: the attack was short, sharp and deadly, enough to send the Georgians fleeing in humiliating panic. Indeed, the Georgians left in such haste that many of their weapons were left behind. It was a complete rort. Another black eye for the US and Israeli advisors who trained the clatter of thugs they call the Georgian army. Soon, vendors on the streets of Skin Valley will be hawking weapons that were left behind with a mocking sign: Georgia Army, M16, never used, dropped once. By the time the army was driven out, the downtown area was engulfed in flames, and the bodies of those who had been killed by sniper fire were strewn along the streets and sidewalks. Many of the people who stayed behind were simply too old or infirm to leave. Instead, they huddled in their basements, waiting for the shelling to stop. It was a bloodbath. The city's only hospital was deliberately targeted and destroyed. Another war crime. By day's end, over 2,000 people were killed in an operation that was clearly engineered with the assistance of the Bush White House. Bush regards Saakashvili as his main client in the region. They are friends. He is America's cat's paw in the Caucasus. Saakashvili's assignment is to try to get Putin to overreact militarily and demonstrate to European allies that Russia still possesses a threat to their national security. Fortunately, many Europeans see through the ruse and know that the trouble originates in Washington. For the most part, Americans are still in the dark about what really happened last weekend. There's a great video circulating on the internet by a Russian citizen that has been living in USA for the last 10 years. He sums up the role of the US media with great precision. He says, the Western media, especially CNN, is feeding you complete horse shit. Russia did not invade Georgia first. The YouTube can be seen here. youtube.com/watch?v equals 0C26Q -sign QXDEA. The coverage, there's also a link if you just go to this page. If you actually go to the more info up on your right hand side up the top there, you'll see a little hyperlink. You can even open that up to get more info if there is any, but I probably won't put any more info there, just the hyperlinks. Sometimes I do. But anyway, getting back to it, I'll put that hyperlink on this as well. The coverage of the Western media has been abysmal. Nearly every article and TV news segment begins with accusations of Russian aggression, concealing the fact that the Georgian army bombarded and invaded the capital of South Ossetia one full day before the first Russian even tank crossed the border. By the time the Russians arrived, the city was already in a shambles and thousands were dead. These facts are not in dispute by those who follow the developments as they took place. Now, the media is revising the facts to manage public perceptions, just as they did with the fictional weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, WMDs in Iraq. Many people think that the media learned its lesson after they were exposed for using bogus information in the lead up to the war in Iraq. But that is not true. The corporate media, especially Fox News, CNN, and PBS, the smug, liberal-sounding channel, continue to operate like the propaganda arm of the Pentagon. It's disgraceful. In a 2006 referendum, 99% of the South Ossetians said they supported independence from Georgia. The voter turnout was 95%, and the balloting was monitored by 34 international observers from the West. No one has challenged the results. The province has been under the protection of Russian and Georgian peacekeepers since 1992 and has been a de facto independent state ever since. If Putin applied the same standard as Bush did in Kosovo, he would unilaterally declare South Ossetia independent from Georgia and then thumb his nose at the UN. Sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. But Putin and newly elected Russian President Dmitry Medvedev have taken a conciliatory attitude towards the international community and tried to resolve the issue through diplomatic channels. So far, they have conducted themselves with restraint and avoided any confrontation. Still, Russia's operation in South Ossetia has ignited a firestorm in the US political establishment, and Democrats and Republicans alike are demanding that Russia be taught a lesson. Condoleezza Rice flew to Tbilisi on Friday and ordered Russian combat troops to withdraw from Georgia immediately. Saakashvili topped off Rice's comments by saying that the Russian troops were cold-blooded killers and barbarians. So much for reconciliation. Saakashvili's hyperbolic rhetoric was followed by a surprise announcement from Poland that they had approved Bush's plans for deploying the missile defense shield in Eastern Europe. The system is supposed to defend Europe from the possibility of attacks from so-called rogue states like Iran. But the Kremlin knows that it is intended to neutralize their nuclear arsenal. Political analyst William Engdahl explains the importance of the proposed system in his recent article, Missile Defense, Washington and Poland Just Moved the World Closer to War. The signing now ensures an escalation of tensions between Russia and NATO and a new Cold War arms race in full force. It is important for readers to understand the ability of one of two opposing sides to put anti-missile missiles to within 90 miles of the territory of the other, and even a primitive first-generation anti-missile missile array gives that side virtual victory in a nuclear balance of power and forces the other to consider unconditional surrender or to preemptively react by launching its nuclear strike before 2012. The new shield will be integrated into the larger US nuclear weapons system, placing the world's most lethal